Have you ever popped open a tin of tuna for a quick, healthy lunch and noticed a weird, watery mush at the bottom? Or a strange metallic tang that you just ignored because, hey, it's just fish, right? What if I told you that the innocent-looking tin sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now is less of a healthy protein shortcut and more of a corporate crime scene? We are talking about severe heavy metal contamination, systematic consumer rip-offs, and industrial shortcuts that mean you are barely eating fish at all. Over the next 20 minutes, I am going to show you exactly what the massive seafood conglomerates are hiding behind those glossy labels. You will find out which household brands have been legally caught red-handed padding out their tins with cheap chemical fillers. We will break down the independent laboratory data that exposed terrifyingly high toxin levels in supermarket staples. And I will reveal the shocking human cost behind the cheapest tins on the British High Street. By the time we are done, you will know exactly how to navigate the supermarket shelves better than 99% of shoppers. And crucially, I will hand you the only two brands truly worth your hard-earned money. Stick around, because the single most outrageous corporate revelation and the brand with the absolute worst safety record is coming up right near the end. Before we start naming and shaming the specific brands you buy from Tesco, Sainsbury's or Asda, we need to understand how a standard tin of fish actually works and how the industry completely warps the process. In an ideal world, a tin of tuna should be incredibly simple: fresh fish, a bit of oil or spring water, and maybe a pinch of salt. It is supposed to be the ultimate clean convenience food. But because ocean-going fishing vessels are massively expensive to run, and global fish stocks are under immense pressure, the big corporate giants have turned food production into a race to the absolute bottom. To understand the tech inside the tin, think of a premium quality product like a high-end sports car, where every single component is precisely engineered for performance. A cheap, corner-cutting tin of tuna, on the other hand, is like a dodgy second-hand motor held together with duct tape and cheap plastic fillers just to pass its MOT. The first major industrial trick is the double cook method. Most mass-market tuna is caught, frozen at sea, thawed at a processing plant, cooked once to clean it, stripped of its natural oils, packed into a tin with water or oil, and then cooked a second for sterilization. By the time that tin hits an Aldi or Lidl shelf, almost all the natural, heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids have been completely drained away into the factory floor. What you are left with is dry, structural fish fiber. But corporations cannot sell bone-dry fish dust to British consumers, so they have to get creative with chemistry. They pump the tins full of vegetable broths, hydrolyzed proteins, and chemical stabilizers to artificially restore the weight and create the illusion of juiciness. It is the food industry equivalent of injecting water into cheap chicken breasts, so you pay premium prices for tap water. Then there is the terrifying issue of bioaccumulation. Tuna are apex predators. They sit right at the top of the marine food chain, swimming through our increasingly polluted oceans for years, eating hundreds of smaller fish. Every single time a large tuna eats a smaller mackerel or sardine, it absorbs the heavy metals present in that fish, particularly methylmercury. This toxin binds tightly to the fish's muscle tissue, meaning it cannot be washed out, cooked away, or filtered out during canning. When you eat highly contaminated tuna, that neurotoxin goes straight into your body, where it can accumulate over time and wreak havoc on your nervous system. Yet, the multi-million-pound brands wrapping their products in friendly sea blue packaging completely gloss over this reality. They rely on the fact that the average British shopper is too busy checking the expiry date to realize they are buying an industrial cocktail of chemical fillers and heavy metals. But today, the corporate curtain is being pulled back completely. Let us dive straight into the absolute graveyard of quality that dominates our supermarket shelves, starting with the brands you trust implicitly, but absolutely should not. First up is Morrison's The Best Yellowfin Tuna in olive oil. Now, Morrison's positions its The Best range as a luxury tier for foodies willing to shell out extra cash for top-quality ingredients. On the surface, the jar looks lovely. The ingredients seem clean. Just yellowfin fillets, olive oil and salt. And independent lab testing from environmental watchdogs actually shows a relatively low mercury reading of around 30 parts per billion. So why is it kicking off our bad list? Because of who actually catches and packs this fish. Morrison sources a massive chunk of its seafood from global processing giants like Thai Union, the single largest canned seafood producer on Earth. This means the money you spend on a premium jar flows directly back into a corporate system that spent over a decade participating in a massive criminal price-fixing conspiracy. Between 2004 and 2015, the executives behind these supply chains rigged the global market to artificially inflate the price of canned fish, completely ripping off ordinary families looking for an affordable meal. While the parent company acted as a whistleblower to dodge federal prosecution, they still had to fork out tens of millions of pounds in civil settlements to overcharged consumers. When you buy this allegedly premium product, you are financially supporting a network with a historical track record of corporate greed, regardless of how posh the glass jar looks on the shelf. If you think that is a bit cheeky, wait until we look at what is hiding in the mainstream aisles. Let us move on to John West, a household name that has been a staple of British pantries for generations. Owned by Thai Union since 2010, John West trades heavily on its historic British heritage and rugged seafaring image. But when independent marine conservation groups and consumer labs analysed mass-market yellowfin and skipjack products from major UK supermarkets, the chemical reality of cost-cutting became glaringly obvious. John West standard tins are frequently packed with hydrolyzed vegetable protein and sodium pyrophosphate. Let us translate that corporate jargon into plain English. Hydrolyzed protein produces free glutamates, which is essentially an industry loophole to pack the fish with MSG without putting MSG on the label, artificially enhancing the flavor of degraded, overcooked fish. Meanwhile, sodium pyrophosphate is a chemical stabilizer added to suppress the formation of natural mineral crystals that might frighten consumers, while simultaneously locking extra water weight inside the muscle tissue. You are literally paying top-tier brand prices for a chemical broth designed to make dry, nutrient-stripped fish flakes feel juicy. It is a total rip-off per serving, compared to basic store brands functioning as a masterclass in how to sell cheap water weight as premium seafood. If you are sitting there thinking your kitchen cupboards are safe because you buy the posh stuff, think again, because it gets significantly more alarming from here. If you feel like checking your own tins right now, hit that subscribe button, because the data we are about to unleash is genuinely shocking. Take a look at Marks & Spencer line-caught yellowfin tuna steaks. M&S is the undisputed king of high street trust. British shoppers flock there because they assume the corporate team has vetted every single item for safety and ethics. But heavy metals do not care about a fancy green logo. When independent food safety groups sent premium yellowfin products sourced from high-end UK retailers to accredited laboratories, the mercury data came back like a punch to the gut. Some premium yellowfin fillets came back with mercury levels hitting over 400 parts per billion. To put that into perspective, independent health thresholds for pregnant women and young children recommend staying far below 50 parts per billion. That means a single serving of this luxury high street tuna could deliver an entire week's worth of heavy metal exposure in one sitting. Yellowfin is a massive, long-lived predator that spends years absorbing toxins from every smaller fish it devours. M&S tells you it is line caught, which sounds lovely and sustainable, but their packaging does absolutely nothing to warn you that these older, larger fish are bioaccumulation magnets for industrial waste. Eating this 3 or 4 times a week as a healthy gym protein means you are quietly flooding your body with a potent neurotoxin. Now let us talk about the big budget players. Asda Smart Price and Tesco Stockwell and Co Chunk Light Tuna. These are the absolute lifelines for millions of British families trying to survive a cost of living crisis. At pennies per tin, nobody expects culinary perfection, but what you actually get is an insult. Industry analysis of these budget tier tins reveals that up to 35% of the contents can consist of hydrolyzed soy broth, water filler, and industrial fish flakes rather than solid chunks. The double cook process completely obliterates the structural integrity of the fish, leaving behind a mush that has to be chemically glued back together with vegetable gums and stabilized with phosphates. You are paying for a tin that is systematically underfilled with actual meat. Consumer reviews are a wasteland of complaints about foul, metallic-smelling mush that looks like cat food floating in murky water. It is a classic corporate trap, exploiting the poorest shoppers by selling them water weight and chemical broth under the guise of cheap protein. But the absolute crown for corporate deception belongs to Princes, the undisputed giant of the British canned fish aisle. Princes controls a massive share of the UK market, found in literally every corner shop, Tesco Express and Sainsbury's local in the country. Their legal and environmental record is an absolute shambles. Greenpeace has consistently dragged Princes through the mud in its UK tuna sustainability rankings, giving them failing grades for their reliance on destructive fishing methods like purse seine nets equipped with fish aggregation devices. These massive industrial nets act like marine vacuum cleaners, scooping up everything in their path and killing thousands of untargeted sharks, sea turtles, and vulnerable seabirds every single year. Worse still, independent consumer lab testing flagged select mass-market white and light tuna samples from these massive commercial packers as having mercury levels so volatile that some batches should arguably be pulled from shelves entirely. In some tests, albacore and light tuna variants registered up to 534 parts per billion of mercury, 11 times the safe threshold for vulnerable populations. Yet, Princes keeps pumping these tins out, relying on flashy, dolphin-friendly stamps that consumer lawsuits have alleged are highly misleading due to the lack of independent observers on the third-party boats supplying their factories. From criminal price-fixing routes in their global corporate networks to tinned mush padded out with soy broth and laced with dangerous heavy metals, the major brands dominating British supermarkets are treating the public like absolute fools. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We have waded through the mud of corporate pricing scams, industrial chemical thickeners, and terrifying heavy metal levels. So let us talk about the absolute relief of knowing there are still honest options out there. If you want to keep eating fish without turning your body into a walking storage facility for industrial mercury, there are exactly 2 brands available right here in the UK that pass every single rigorous safety, ingredient, and sustainability screen. These are the only tins of tuna actually worth putting in your shopping trolley. First up on our safe list is Fish 4Ever, a brand you can easily find in Planet Organic, Whole Foods, Ocado, and various independent health food shops across the UK. Fish 4Ever has built its entire reputation on doing the exact opposite of the massive corporate conglomerates. Every single tin of their skipjack tuna is 100% caught using local small-scale pole and line boats operating around the Azores. This means absolutely no massive purse seine nets, no destructive fish aggregation devices, and virtually zero accidental killing of marine wildlife like sharks, turtles, or dolphins. When you flip a tin of Fish 4Ever over, the ingredient list is beautifully boring. It contains exactly 3 things: skipjack tuna, spring water, and a pinch of salt. That is it. No hydrolyzed soy proteins, no sodium pyrophosphate, no vegetable broth designed to add fake water weight. Crucially, they use an artisanal single-cook process. Instead of pre-cooking the fish on industrial racks where all the heart-healthy omega-3 oils drain away into a factory gutter, they pack the fish raw and cook it just once inside the sealed tin. When you peel back the lid, you are not met with a grey, watery mush. You get firm, meaty, pink tuna steaks that have preserved all their natural oils and rich texture. The difference in taste and quality is night and day compared to the cheap supermarket budget lines. Independent ethical auditors, including Ethical Consumer and Greenpeace, have repeatedly ranked Fish Forever right at the very top of their UK leagues, giving them an unprecedented sustainability score. Now, if we are being completely honest, there is one small catch you need to keep in mind. Because Fish Forever relies on traditional selective fishing methods, they occasionally land slightly older, larger skipjack than the industrial vacuum net fleets. Independent lab testing shows that while their mercury levels are well within the legal safety limits, they can occasionally register higher than the mass market, highly diluted industrial mush tins. It is a deliberate, transparent trade-off. They prioritize absolute ingredient purity and immaculate environmental ethics over chasing a chemically manipulated mercury score. It costs around £3 for a standard tin, which is certainly more expensive than a supermarket budget line, but every penny of that difference is justified because you are paying for actual pure fish weight. Not chemical stabilizers and seafloor devastation. It is the perfect, trustworthy option for a premium weekly meal. But if your absolute top priority is avoiding heavy metals, especially if you have young kids, are pregnant, or just love eating tuna multiple times a week, the absolute gold standard available to British shoppers is Safe Catch, which you can order directly through specialized UK health retailers, online eco-grocers and premium distributors. Safe Catch is the only seafood brand on the planet that tests every single individual fish for mercury before it ever goes near a tin. We are not talking about random batch testing or statistical spot checks. Their technicians physically test over 5 million fish using patented, high-precision laboratory technology. If a fish fails their incredibly strict purity standard, it gets rejected on the spot. Safe Catch sets its internal mercury limit 10 times stricter than official government action levels. This means a standard supermarket tin could legally contain 10 times more heavy metal contamination than what Safe Catch allows into their production line. When rival big-budget brands tried to legally challenge these low mercury claims through advertising standards, the independent review boards investigated and completely validated Safe Catch's data. Independent lab results across multiple lines confirmed the numbers. Their elite skipjack consistently registers at an incredibly low 51 parts per billion of mercury, while their yellowfin lines sit at a microscopic 29 parts per billion. The ingredient list is utterly immaculate. Just wild tuna and a touch of sea salt packed into strictly non-BPA lined tins with absolutely zero fillers, water or oil added. You do not even need to drain the tin. You just flake the steak with a fork and let it reabsorb its own pure, natural juices. It is a premium product, often costing upwards of £3 to £4 per tin, and it can take a bit of effort to find online or in high-end specialty shops. But when the alternative is funding a convicted corporate price fixer who pads out your food with soy broth and industrial toxins, that extra expense buys you the one thing the big corporations refuse to sell: the absolute, unvarnished truth about what you are feeding your family. Now that you know exactly what is going on behind the scenes, you do not have to be a passive victim of corporate cost-cutting next time you run down to Tesco or Sainsbury's. To make sure you never accidentally buy a tin of glorified chemical water and heavy metals again, you need to arm yourself with a few non-negotiable rules for the canned food aisle. First, flip the tin around immediately and read the ingredients list. If you see hydrolyzed vegetable protein, hydrolyzed casein, or sodium pyrophosphate, put it right back on the shelf because you are paying premium fish prices for industrial chemical fillers and artificial water weight. Second, check the label specifically for the phrase pole and line caught or troll caught, which is a massive green light indicating small scale. Sustainable fishing practices rather than the destructive industrial vacuum nets used by the big major brands. Third, treat albacore and large yellowfin products as an occasional luxury rather than a daily gym meal because these older, larger predators inherently store the highest concentrations of toxic mercury in their muscle tissue. Fourth, if you are buying budget store lines like Asda Smart Price or Tesco Stockwell & Co., check the drained weight percentage against the total weight of the tin, as a low ratio means the corporation is deliberately packing the product with cheap, murky vegetable broth instead of actual meat chunks. Fifth, look out for explicit transparency declarations on the packaging, such as a scannable code or a specific ocean catchment area like the Azores, which proves the company actually knows where its boats operate and isn't hiding behind a murky, untraceable global supply network. Ultimately, the entire global seafood industry is built on a very simple foundation, hiding the cheap, industrial degradation of our oceans behind friendly, bright corporate logos to extract maximum profit from busy shoppers. But once you make that single critical shift in your thinking, realizing that cheap food always comes with a hidden systemic cost, you stop letting clever marketing campaigns dictate what you put into your body. You deserve real, genuine food. And now you have the exact tools and knowledge required to demand it on your next weekly grocery run. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me today to expose the reality of what is sitting on our supermarket shelves. If this investigation completely changed how you view a simple tin of fish, please hit that like button and share the video with a friend or family member who still has stacks of cheap Princes or John West tins sitting in their kitchen cupboard right now. Drop a comment below and let me know exactly which household brand is sitting in your pantry at this very moment, and tell me which consumer product you want us to investigate next. If you want to keep uncovering the truth about what the